Hi, welcome to a new episode of History in 7 Facts, the show that aims to explore some interesting episodes of humanity's past. Check out this playlist to watch the entire series, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. The Magna Carta Libertatum, or the Great Charter of the Liberties, is a pillar of democracy. It is a document revered by people around the world and is considered to be one of the most important pieces of paper in England's and the world's history. It is one of mankind's earliest steps towards freedom and democracy, or so we think, because this 13th century document from England didn't actually help landless people. It was intended to shield the intentions of the country's noblemen. The landlords who made King John Lackland sign the charter weren't freedom fighters, and they were not thinking to better the lives of everybody. The Magna Carta was indeed signed by King John of England, or rather was forced to sign it in the aftermath of a baronial revolt. It indeed stated that the charter was for the benefit of all free men of the kingdom and their heirs. But, you see, back in those days, the term free man had a different meaning than today. In medieval times, you were either a freeman or a bondsman. Free men were landlords, while bondsmen had no land and were pretty much at the mercy of their lords. They represented almost half of England's population. But the lords had no interest whatsoever to change this order, which was pretty much the basis of their wealth. So, in other words, the Magna Carta did not speak about the freedoms and rights of men, but of the rights of the free man. In the year 1215, when the charter was signed, England was dominated by a few dozen noble families, each with dozens of different domains. These were the feudal times, so there's nothing out of the ordinary about this. The king, of course, had to temper the conflicts between these families, since it was, well, bad for business. King John was the son of Henry II and the brother of Richard Lionheart. He came to power in 1199 and became the ruler of what was at the time one of the strongest European kingdoms. But in just 5 years, he lost key assets like Normandy, Aquitaine and Anjou to King Philip II of France. He wasn't the greatest of leaders, that's for sure, and his signing of the Magna Carta is an eloquent proof. The document contained 63 clauses, and it was basically a collection of the noblemen's complaints. The first clauses all referred to taxes and inheritance rights of landowners in England. These were at the basis of their revolt, who felt oppressed by the king and had accumulated large debts because of him. You see, normally the king could ask for financial and military help from his vassals, the largest landlords. But King John Lackland's demands were simply too much. He increased many special taxes, such as in the case of an inheritance, and these taxes were in some cases more than 10 times higher than before. You can bet that the lords didn't appreciate this. For a while, this tactic actually worked. The treasury was filling up. Compared to the encashment during his predecessor's rule, King John cashed in almost 3 times more money. But all this money came from his own lords, who were getting more upset by the day. And some were even starting to accumulate debt. There were even rumors of some people being tortured until they agreed to pay up. Of course, this couldn't last for long, and indeed the barons were now preparing to strike back. Even with all this wealth, John still couldn't win wars. In 1214, while attempting to recover his domains in France, he spent all of his money on the army, and he still lost to Philip of France. In fact, the king wasn't even there, and yet he was still asking for more money. But more and more of his vassals refused to pay. Their discontent was slowly turning into a rebellion. But in order for this rebellion to catch on, the noblemen needed a noble cause. After all, Why would anyone join them against the king just so the lords can pay less taxes? Normally a claimant would have been handy, but there was no one worthy at the time to claim the throne. So they came up with a different idea, a charter of reforms. So let's see a couple of the clauses of the Magna Carta and what they really meant. No free man shall be arrested or incarcerated, exiled or ruined in any way, except through the righteous judgment of the nobleman. Many believe this clause is the origin of a trial by jury. Wrong. This clause only meant that people are to be judged by their equals in rank. Remember, free men were the landlords. If the heir of a vassal was tutored, when he comes of age he shall not pay any taxes. When an heir was tutored, he was taken care of by the king. All the while, the king cashed in all the revenues. So it wasn't fair for the heir to pay an additional tax. 25 barons shall be chosen, who shall make sure that the peace and liberties given by this charter shall be respected. The rebellious nobleman didn't trust the king to respect the charter and wanted to limit his power. No free man shall pay a large fine for an insignificant felony. Likewise, no bondsman shall receive a fine that will prevent him from working. This clause is the only one mentioning the bondsmen, the poor, and even here it was in their advantage. Almost all of the 63 clauses were specifically designed to benefit the aristocracy, not the entire nation. This charter contained a little bit of advantage for every class of freemen whose support these lords were seeking. And by 1215, at Runnymede, King John understood he had to make major concessions in order to settle down his vassals. He signed the charter in its final form. It was basically a peace treaty between the monarch and his vassals, but it failed. 3 months later, civil war broke out once again. The Pope declared the charter illegal and threatened anyone who would abide by it with excommunication. But this didn't stop the Barons' War, and Scotland, Wales and France all sent help in one form or another. The Magna Carta came back after John's death the next year. It was revised several times by the barons, and in time it came to be regarded as the premise for a good governance. To this day, 3 of its clauses are included in the UK's constitution. Although it didn't help the common man in any way, nor was it meant to, in time the Magna Carta came to be known as a powerful symbol of freedom and fight against tyranny. Thank you for watching this episode of History in 7 Facts. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe it even inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you liked this video, please thumbs up and subscribe. While you're downstairs, let me know what you think about this video. Please consider visiting my Patreon page and become a patron. The link is in the description. I hope to see you next time. Bye.